I think if you just take a step back and look at art as an asset class, art historically has outperformed the S&P. It lacks correlation to other asset classes. We believe that it deserves a role in an investment portfolio. The challenge has really been historically there hasn't been a way to invest in it.
Hi, my name is M. Norton, and I am a staff writer at MoneyWise. And today I'm joined by Scott Lynn, CEO and founder of the art investing platform Masterworks. Thank you for being here today. We really appreciate it. Just to jump right into it, can you tell me a little bit about your relationship to art and what inspired you to enter the world of art as opposed to other assets?
I think if you just take a step back and look at art as an asset class, art historically has outperformed the S&P. It lacks correlation to other asset classes. We believe that it deserves a role in an investment portfolio. The challenge has really been historically there hasn't been a way to invest in it. Most of what we consider investment grade paintings cost millions of dollars to buy. So the only way to invest in it is if you have millions of dollars, and even building a portfolio is even more complicated than that. So we were really the first firm to securitize an individual painting by filing it as a public offering with the SEC and selling shares and works of art. And that allows anyone to allocate a small percentage of a portfolio to a number of artworks.
Kind of jumping off that, fractional ownership as an investing method is really picking up steam. Could you break it down for us a little bit and explain how this approach benefits both the investors and the artists whose work is available through Masterworks?
Yeah, I mean, most of the paintings that we buy are what are referred to as secondary market paintings. So these are artists who are not selling a painting for the first time, but it's being sold for the second time. And most of those artists tend to be deceased. So we're not working with a lot of living artists or buying primary today. The way that fractional ownership benefits investors is really allowing them access to investments that were previously inaccessible. And I think even if you take a step back and you think about art compared to other asset classes, one of the things that we find really interesting is that the art market has really never had investment capital in it, with the exception of capital that comes from collectors themselves. So when you look at other asset classes like real estate, for example, there's lots of investment funds that are buying up houses or buying up commercial buildings. There's really not that many investment funds or none that are significant that are investing capital into the art market. So I do think one of the secondary benefits to the art market over time, as more investment capital comes into it, is there's just an increasing amount of capital that supports artists that continues to drive up paintings. But we're still in the very early days of seeing that yet. I think there's arguably decades to come as that plays out.
Similarly, on that line, how does Masterworks ensure that investments made today will stand the test of time and continue to appreciate in value?
Yeah, I mean, like any asset manager, we can't we certainly can't guarantee that things will always appreciate. But I think if you look at our investment process very broadly, we focus on using data to understand which artist markets are accelerating the most, and then going out and sourcing, in some cases, literally hundreds or thousands of paintings within those segments and buying a very small percentage of what we see. One of the benefits as the largest art buyer is that we see a ton of work. So if you take an individual artist market, like Basquiat is one that I'd like to use an example of. I think there are approximately 700 Basquiats now in private collections. And I think we've been shown 250 or 300 Basquiats. So there really isn't anyone else in the art market that sees the volume of work that we do. So I think the combination of choosing the right artist markets along with choosing the right paintings in those markets are really what allows us to out alpha over time.
So, would you consider art to be a volatile investment? There is maybe people have differing opinions on that. So, I'm curious if you consider it to be a volatile investment. And along those lines, how does Masterworks position itself as an investment opportunity or alternative when compared to stock market volatility?
So volatility, I guess, can be defined in different ways. So one is standard deviation of returns. How much do returns fluctuate over time? The other is simply loss rate. Like what percentage of the time do investors lose money? And then when they do lose money, what is the magnitude of those losses? I think what we see in the art market is that volatility and loss rates are higher for lower price paintings. We tend to look at kind of segments less than $100,000. and between 100,000 and 500,000 or $1 million, and then above $1 million. And what you see is that risk adjusted returns become much more predictable as soon as paintings exceed $1 million. So I think it really depends on the segment of the art market that you're in. I often have friends ask me, would I recommend buying a certain painting? And oftentimes those paintings are like $10,000 to $50,000 each. And my answer almost always is from an investment perspective, no, because that segment of the art market is just very, very unpredictable. So it's really hard to get predictable returns in the art market when you're buying a low priced work, but it's much easier to get them when works are more expensive.
That definitely makes sense. When it comes to the outlook for the future, what should the art investment community be on the lookout for in the coming years?
Well, I think with Masterworks, one of the things that we're focused on, I think, in the coming years is our secondary markets. So when we talk to our investors and we ask them, what is your biggest objection to investing in art? The answer has almost always been lack of liquidity, having to wait 3 to 10 years for a painting to sell. So we released secondary markets 2 or 3 years ago, and I think that will continue to be our focus, supporting secondary markets through the Masterworks app, adding more buyers in secondary market to improve liquidity. But that I think is one of the big unlocks for the asset class, since the performance is good, but the horizon tends to be longer than other asset classes.
And other than fractional investing, what does Masterworks offer that might appeal to the average retail investor?
Everything that we offer really is focused on the art market, right? So we also provide a lot of research on our individual artist markets, how they're performing, how they're appreciating. We publish what are called Sharp ratios, which is appreciation rate divided by volatility, which is a metric that helps investors understand how much appreciation is there for every unit of risk that's being taken. That's a metric that's very similar to other asset classes, but that's never really been available to anyone researching the art market before. So I think, if you're interested in art as an asset class broadly and you want to learn about it, really the best thing you could do, I think, in today's world is create an account on the Masterworks platform and then just start watching offerings as we launch them, because it gives investors a good feel for how do different artist markets perform, how does risk vary between different artist markets. Yeah.
And I know you mentioned an app, which I'm not sure. I wasn't familiar that you guys had an app. I was wondering, are there any other exciting plans for Masterworks you can tell us about for 2024? Anything on the horizon that either new users might want to check out or even existing?
Yeah. I mean, we're launching a lot of new features,
Mhm.
frankly, not only on the app, but also on the website. So those are just different ways to understand your portfolio, different ways to interpret new offerings that we're launching. We tend to think of our mobile app not really as an investor acquisition tool, but as a companion app for existing investors. We've also spent a bunch of time this year and are continuing to spend more time on personalized communications. So helping investors understand a particular offering at maybe a more granular level than just high level metrics. Where does that artist come from? Why is that artist important? Why do we think that artist makes sense for the Masterworks platform? So we're doing a lot more content driven initiatives than we used to.
Yeah.
But I think our core products ultimately at the end of the day are investing in these single asset paintings, which we're, doing a new one now about every 2 days, and then secondary market. So that's really our primary focus.
So I really appreciate you taking the time to answer those and to hear a little bit more about what's coming for Masterworks. It's a super cool platform and really, really glad to talk to you today. Thank you so much for your time.